The McDonald case, it was kind of famous because it really was not completely solved, even though they did conclude something with the case, but people are still wondering. The case was well respected, I think. Jeffrey McDonald, an army physician, he was a doctor. He was found lying near his wife, Colette. His wife, and I think two daughters also, they were stabbed and brutally bludgeoned to death. They were elsewhere in the house, and the wife was dead. So, and he was collapsed near her, and apparently he had a small stab wound in his chest. Well, we kind of suspect him a little bit because he was there. He claimed that four people invaded his home on drugs, claiming something like, drugs are groovy. I don't know. I don't exactly know what he was claiming, but he claimed that some hippie types, that's what the way he described it. And back in the day, they were called hippies, and anyway, that's what he said. And he said 4 people invaded his home and killed his wife and daughters while he slept. He sort of like woke up and he had his pajama top in his hand and used it to try to protect himself from these people with a knife, and an ice pick that were attacking him. So he did. He tried to shield himself with his pajama top. And, the pajama top was bloody and with his wife's blood. And he said because he put his pajama top on top of his wife after he found her in her sad state, bloody state. So the curious thing is if he was trying to defend himself against these 4 hippie home invaders, he did not have any defensive wounds on his arms. But then again, there were later claims that yes, he did, and they just didn't mention it, and people were hushed up. They weren't allowed to mention it. From the army was against it. A lot of controversy about the case. But that was one of the things they mentioned, that he did not have any defensive wounds on his arms. And other people said yes, he did, but the people who were going to testify that were silenced by the army. Okay, whatever. So that was a little bit of a suspicion. He didn't have defensive wounds, but wasn't he defending himself? Also, we found fibers from his pajama top all over the house. Not just where he was attacked. Okay, that doesn't prove much because I'm assuming he wore his pajama top other nights when he was around the house. The wounds on his wife, Colette, this was what ultimately doomed Jeffrey McDonald. What they did was they found the holes in this pajama top that he claimed he was using to protect himself from the ice pick stabbings. And there were holes in the pajama top, but when they put the pajama top on top of Colette and they tried to match it to the wounds, they realized that the holes in the pajama top matched pretty well. They matched the holes in Colette. The hole, as if someone had put the pajama top on top of Colette and stabbed her through the pajama top. So, it sure looks like he wasn't using the pajama top to defend himself. It looked like he, I don't know if he subdued his wife first, and then when she was lying down, he stabbed her through the pajama top. That's what the prosecution wanted to say. Also, they realized the holes in the pajama top were round. It was not moving it, but if you use it as a shield, you're like moving it around, trying to defend yourself. It would have been more jagged or more long instead of like, I guess, small and round, which indicates they were just stabbed straight through. So the court actually found Jeffrey McDonald guilty, and they put him, and I think he was sentenced to life in jail. There were again a lot of controversy involved. There were later reports. Not just like claims, but significant reports, backed up by some serious evidence that some evidence was mishandled by the government forensic agents, as if the army wanted this guy put away, and they also prevented the defense from access to some of the forensic evidence. So it got kind of ugly. Later on, the defense managed to, I think it was years later after he was in jail for some time. The defense said, wait a minute, we found a hair in the house. A hair in the house that did not belong to Colette, to the 2 daughters, or to Jeffrey McDonald. It didn't belong to anybody, as if there was a home invader, just like Jeffrey McDonald claimed. He claimed there were 4 of them, but if there was a hair that did not come from anybody in the family, sounds like he's right. There was someone who came in and and left the hair behind. So they were thinking of overturning the case. However, unfortunately for Jeffrey, or again, we don't know if he's guilty. If he's guilty, I guess best that he stay in jail. But whatever it is, unfortunately for him, for what he wanted, these hairs were actually found. They found the source of the hairs. It was not from anyone in the family, but it was from his wife's a fall. It's a kind of a wig that covers the back of the head. So she had one, and that's where the hair came from. So they really couldn't prove anyone else was in the house. So Jeffrey McDonald stayed in jail. I think he's dead now. But whatever it is, that's the case where they tried to use hairs and maybe the pajama top, the fibers from it, whatever it was, they tried to use it in a court case. Okay, so suppose you do get a fiber match. How valuable is it? So as we mentioned, this is a class characteristic. You don't sell just one shirt to one person. I mean, think about but then again, how many people around you have the same fibers? How many people around you are wearing the same kind of shirt? It's not very common. If you have hundreds of shirts, it's very unlikely that people around you will have the same shirt. So it's true that maybe someone else wearing the same shirt was the one you should be connected to. But again, there's so many different shiny shirts. So it is valuable in a way. It might not prove anything, but it does help to convince a jury that it's unlikely that this fiber match means nothing. It's not complete proof, but it is, again, part of the story, part of the evidence. That's what class characteristics do. They make things probable. And if you attach it to something else that makes it even more probable, then we have a stronger case. So we do try to get fiber and hair matching. We do try to do that, but it's never used alone. It's as corroborating evidence, but never alone. The problem is fibers are small, and so are hairs. And in a way, I think this is the most difficult piece of evidence to get, to collect. You got to be very experienced, and you got to know where fibers would be. For example, someone was looking at a suspect's house or apartment, I think it was, and the person had duct tape. So they said, hey, I want that duct tape. And they found fibers on the duct tape. So some places actually accumulate hairs. Even so, remember that you always take standards. Always take them from the suspect. Always take them from the victim so you can know where the hairs or where the fibers, hairs come from, whether they come from the victim or the suspect. And same thing with fiber evidence. If you find certain fibers there, check the fibers, get the standards. Get the fibers from the crime elsewhere in the crime scene where crime did not occur. Maybe the fibers came just from a different part of the house. So always take the standards. When you collect them, keep the separate fibers from different places, or keep the different fibers in separate evidence bags so you can and label them so you know this fiber this is a standard, this one came from the shoulder area, this one came from near the bed, whatever you might find useful. And again, it's important to identify the fibers that you collect. Clothing, if clothing is part of the evidence, keep the clothing separate from everything else, and keep the fibers, again, so that you know that the fibers found in this clothing stay with the clothing. So you can, again, realize that the fibers were with the clothing. So if you find fibers on clothing, and you can take the clothing together with the fibers. Don't separate the fibers from the clothing. And also, it might be true that where the fibers on the clothing are found, it might be indicative. If it's found, let's say, in the chin area, maybe you say it's a beard hair or something like that.